Dear Building Better Leaders, I've had ongoing feedback conversations with one of my team members and I'm stuck. This isn't a case of missed deadlines or poor work quality. He's delivering on that front. The issue is how he shows up. He tends to interrupt others in meetings, dominate conversations, take credit subtly, and have a habit of rolling his eyes or sighing when given direction. I've tried raising these things both in a gentle and direct way, but he will always be agreeable in the moment, nodding, apologizing, even acknowledging the impact. But the behavior doesn't actually change. And because none of it is extremely bad on its own, it feels hard to justify formal action. But the sum of these micro behaviors is draining. The team tiptoes around him. I find myself rehearsing every feedback conversation in my head, afraid I'll come across as nitpicking or making it a bigger deal than it is. What do you do in such a situation? So at the top of my mind, I think this is something which when I was working in a corporate world, this comes up a lot of times, right? So for example, if a salesperson is being it's a high performer in this case in terms of closing deals and all, but in terms of how she or he reacts or respond or collaborate or lack of collaboration with the rest of the team has always been the problem. But because sometimes the business is so geared towards performance, bringing in the money, bringing in the revenue and so on, it's very difficult to justify actions. So most of the time organizations will go like, oh, but this person is bringing in the money, so let's not rock the boat, that kind of thing, right? Especially if at that point in time, revenue is really important. So it's quite difficult to quantify such behavior versus, for example, very obvious things like not closing a deal, punctuality, and very disciplinary stuff like, for example, stealing and all these things. So this is very clear, but these are all the subtle things, right, which is very difficult to measure. So I'm just wondering, based on your experience, how should we address this letter writer?
I can empathize because a lot of times why it makes this kind of little behaviors very gray is because sometimes it's due to preferences, right? So for example, if I prefer to communicate in a certain manner, I'm a left brainer versus, sometimes not that sensitive to emotions and all that. It sometimes boils down to appear like a personal preference, and therefore that's when will it toe the line into a professional settings or professional so-called not acceptable in a corporate setting. So the key focus here, I think, is the feedback. Clearly this manager has tried to give this person a lot of feedback, but behavior did not change. So I think the first thing is really look at how the feedback was given. Yeah, because a lot of times feedback is really, it has to come with tangible actions to take. And it's not just passing a comment to say that, hey, you should have done that, you make this person feel this way. But feedback, in order to be constructive, really has to come with tangible changes at the behavioral level to observe. And therefore, then you can subsequently hold the person accountable if the actions or behaviors remain unchanged.
What do you mean by tangible changes in this case? I mean, as in like for example, the letter writer says here,
interrupt others in
rolling
meetings,
eyes, interrupting, and so on, right? So how do you even start having such conversations with a person like that?
So if I'm the line manager, then I will pull this person aside to say that, hey, there's a set of observable behaviors, like you roll eyes when people say something you disagree with, or you interrupt people and do not dominate situations, conversations. I think these are affecting. So how we actually let them know that specific actions or behaviors are creating certain impact. So there are many feedback models out there. So you can basically let the person know how they are affecting other people. So it's like you dominate, you don't let others give input, and people don't have a chance to speak, etc., etc. So then you also talk about what is the development expectations. So if the person is, not aware of it, I think then that's a good start. Say that, okay, I'd like you in future be aware of this, not to roll eyes, give people the time to speak, let people finish the sentences.
Okay.
Yeah. If the person has this, if this is not the first conversation, then clearly it's a motivational issues. That's where the coaching comes in.
Okay. And how does that look like? Let's say this is not the first time. It seems that from the letter writer, it is not the first time
It's
because
not the first time, yeah.
this person has not apologized and it's still happening, right? So what do you advise this person?
I would suggest you take a coaching front for this person. So meaning that really understand is like why the person want to do this. Is the person actually mistaken authenticity mistaken indulgence as authenticity. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like to them, maybe I'm just trying to be myself. I'm trying to speak the truth, and nobody wants to listen to harsh truth. I've met so-called difficult people coming from that angle, and they are not wrong per se. So by being right, they feel they have the permission to actually do that to other people.
Oh,
but then
that's first time I'm
feeling
hearing
justified.
that.
Yeah, feeling justified doesn't mean you have the
Feeling
permission. Yeah.
Right. So that's the motivation, right? In terms of
Yes.
like, this is who I am.
Yes, this is who I am. And there could be other reasons like, this person feel that, it's like when I try other ways, nobody listen or pay attention to me. So I have to kind of like be nasty. That could be from their worldview or upbringing or whatever. Yeah, or that's the way the person wants to show power. So there are many possible reasons behind those sets of difficult behaviors usually.
It does make sense when you talk about using the coaching front because me being a coach as well, it is not really about giving statements or advice in this case, right? It's really about trying to understand where is those behavior coming from. It's like the whole iceberg conversation, right? We only see that 10%, but the 90% of it is below the watermark, and we don't know what's really going on. Like you say, it could be, cultural, it could be authenticity, it could be show of power and all. And I think it's only right that by true coaching, it will help the person to kind of go dive deeper into the iceberg and try to understand that person. So coaching helps to unlock the reason behind it in this case, right? And so that it doesn't come back again and again. I think a lot of times, even like in bringing out a child, like a small kid in this case, so most of the time it's always you just address the symptom. Don't do it again. Don't do it again. So, right?
Yes.
Then after that, it keeps recurring, right? So, but for an adult, I think it's really to fully understand like where it's coming from and to be able to address that. I just would like to add on about the emphasis of the consequences, the impact. I think the letter writer did say that, did mention about the impact, but I'm not too sure how serious or how detailed the letter writer has addressed this impact. So usually, I think a lot of times when we give feedback, we just kind of like the SBI method, right? Situation, behavior, and impact. A lot of times we missed out on the consequence or the impact, the I portion in this case.
Yes.
We talk very clearly about the situation, to say that very specific situation, that particular meeting, or that conversation and so on. So that sets the context, and then the behavior. But then thereafter, it doesn't. The line manager do not give the kind of tangible impact they may have, right? So I realized that whenever last time when I missed out the I part, the impact part, somehow it just keep recurring. But when I mention about how it impacts people around or how it impacts me, so like for example, I would probably say that rolling your eyes and all is not helpful because I understand that you are going to want to be a manager in the next 6 months, and such behaviors is not going to be helpful for you.
Yes.
Something like that, right? Or even like, for example, I would say that and such behaviors is actually draining your team and draining the people around you. And if you are going to be gunning for a manager, such behaviors is not going to be helpful for you, and it's very draining for me as your boss or as your manager. So when we very tangibly explain it this way, then they understand that, actually my actions, even though it is authentic, power showing, whatever, it's not going to be helpful for myself, right? Because in this case, like I'm gunning for a promotion, so that sticks. So they will know that, oh, my action is not going to help my promotion.
Yes.
So I think that emphasis is really important. So once that's done, of course, we don't stop there, like you say. Then we want to be able to say, okay, so what's the new action, or what's the new behavior that we want to be able to demonstrate, right? That's where the coaching bit comes in, you know. So I always believe that the feedback method, the SBI, whatever frameworks out there, always needs to couple with coaching to help the person to move to the new behavior, so that there is clear progress indicator of
Yes.
how this new behavior looks like. And when the line manager catches this new behavior being demonstrated, the line manager's job is to very quickly say, you know, that's exactly how you should be behaving. You know, well done. You know, this is please continue this because it's really helpful, and the team is starting to listen to you more. You know, or the team is starting to respect you a bit more. So such feedback will continue to help that person in this case. So that's kind of my thoughts about it.
I have one
I'm wondering,
thing
is there
to
anything to
add.
add on?
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
one thing to add. I think when we put across the consequence, right, or the
Yeah.
impact, it's very important not to sound like a threat. Yeah. So for example, for example, like when you say that it will affect the promotion, there is a
Right.
chance that the other person, the receiving end, to perceive that, are you threatening me that I'm not going to get my promotion? So
Okay.
usually we want to kind of like put it across using universal laws, meaning that by nature this is likely to happen. So for example, I have a similar conversation like that where I have to tell the person that, you know, it's very hard for me to put your case as a business case for promotion if you continue to behave in this way.
Got it.
And I put it across as, you know, it's like, look, you are starting to create certain reputation about yourself in the company by behaving this way. And even if I put up a case, I don't think the other stakeholders who are involved in your praises would actually be favorable to your promotion. So therefore, let's not do this. Let's go, you know, let's find something that is useful so that we can strike a win-win. So you don't want to put it and make yourself as becoming the one giving out the threat. But by universal law, like by behaving this way, you make most people feel in a certain way, and therefore you're starting to have certain reputation. And if I were to promote you, your peers are not going to give you the respect. So it's
Got
no
it.
longer about the promotion anymore.
Got it. Okay. Wow. Yeah, again, back to how you say it, right? A lot of times feedback is really, the what is clear, but the how is always the one that breaks in the middle, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it is usually how whether feedback is good or bad, it is
Yeah,
how we deliver
yeah.
it that makes it good or bad. A lot of times not the
Yes,
content.
you're right.
Yeah.
And I think the coaching bit itself, it's also important to be able to invite collaboration from the person as well. So like in this
Yes.
case, after you have explained the consequences and you kind of say that this is the new behavior that I'm looking for, then I think it's very appropriate for the line manager to be able to invite the other person to say, so this is where we want to go, this is how we want to look like. Any thoughts on how, if this situation would happen again, what would you do? How would you react, or how would you behave so that you will end up in this particular destination? I think that's really important, because I feel that I think even in the book that we've written, we always talk about the balance of results and fostering relationship,
Yes.
right? So that is exactly what it is, right? So you state very clearly what is the result that we're looking for, but yet you give space and creativity for the other person to figure out and collaborate with you how to get to that particular destination in this case, right? So that is where the relationship building comes in. That's where the trust comes in this case. So it's a very beautiful demonstration, especially feedback at the point of time. So always feel that feedback is a very good opportunity to be able to demonstrate both the seriousness of the need to drive business results, but at the same time as well, you are inviting the other person to come on this journey with you on how to get to that together in this case.
Yes.
So, I mean, the one thing that sometimes, just thinking out of the box a little bit, I mean, sometimes even before we jump into, that means how do we avoid such feedbacks in this case? I'm not saying not avoid, but kind of like how do we avoid such situations, right? I think a lot of times we as managers, we don't set the expectation right at the beginning.
Yes.
Right? So, and when we say expectation here, that also should include behavioral expectations as well, right? And I would say not a whole list of stuff, then it'd be totally micromanaging, but I'm talking about really non-negotiable behaviors in this case. So, for example, I was just speaking to somebody quite recently, and it, again, it's back to the sales, because sales is the most easy to measure in this case. So this manager was just sharing and saying that, I'm having a lot of issues with this person, this person has punctuality issues and all these things, right? But this person is closing deals.
Growth covers all sins.
So what do we do, and so on, right? So that's where I am reminded that it is because you, as a manager, or at least you are the guardian of the department, it's really important for you to be able to say, okay, look, aside all the usuals, right? You need to prospect, you need to close deals, and so on. There are also a set of non-negotiable behaviors as well, which I want to state it up front. Everything else, of course, we can talk about it, but these are some of the non-negotiables. So, for example, this particular person I was talking to wants to build his sales team to be like a consultant. So then I say, okay, so consultant means what to you? What are the non-negotiable behaviors of a consultant in this case? And this person said that, in order for this person to be a consultant level, they need to be curious. They need to actively listen, don't interrupt in this case, and learn to ask thoughtful questions to the client in this case. Right, so these are some of the non-negotiables for them. So okay, so if this is it, then you need to be able to explain this very clearly, to them, to say that aside from the usual stuff which we know, like I said, but it's also important for you to be able to say that these are the non-negotiables, right? But then to also invite them to say, okay, so if these are the non-negotiables and these are the rules of the game in this case, then let's discuss how I can support you and help you to get towards being someone like that. Then that's where you set the expectation up front, and you invite them to still be who they are, but yet there's a certain parameter they need to work within in this case. So that when such behaviors appear, whether rolling eyes and so on, then there's always an anchor to say, hey, remember we talked about this, these are some non-negotiables, and this is not helping, this behavior is not helping you to be a consultant, for example.
Yes.
So this is something
actually, you actually brought up a good point in terms of from a systems perspective. I think that was what you have been saying, is that there is a larger system operating in corporate setting that actually managers or leaders can leverage on. And this is why then organization values or organization culture become important, because it establishes certain behavioral way of being, to operate, what kind of values to embody and uphold as leaders, and therefore setting the example to down the line. So this is where organization can come in. At a team level, we can also establish the rules of engagement, like what you said. So then all these become systems and processes that mid-management can use to help them guide their team members towards more constructive behaviors.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to add on to this letter?
I think a lot of times people don't behave because they just want to be nasty. I think that's why the coaching would usually uncover motivation as to why they behave this way. But a lot of times there are also situations where leadership quality is not consistent, meaning that this employee who has such behaviors may actually have role models in other departments or even within the team who behave in such a way and get away with it. Yeah, I think that is usually then a much bigger issue where it comes to how we work together or the rules of engagement. So I think rules of engagement is always something that I advocate, whether you have a team charter or not. But I think if you don't have a team charter, team vision, that's fine. But I think rules of engagement of how the team should work together within themselves and also across other teams, I think this is any team lead should consider establishing.
On this point, I'm curious, for the rules of engagement, does it have to be documented in any way? Or
Ideally,
it's just
yes.
like, okay.
No, ideally, yes. So that it can be used as part of onboarding for anyone who joins the team. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Anything else before I kind of like try my best to recap some key actions that the letter writer can work on? Anything else to add on?
I think the other thing is about what do the rest of the team, what is their involvement from the rest of the
that's
team
interesting.
members? Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
don't, so meaning that don't take it just like a me and you, me versus you kind of war
Right.
or conflict, because
Yeah.
then it can get personal. So I think sometimes can also leverage the help of the rest of the colleagues. See whether this person has a closer relationship to other colleagues within the team or even across teams, and kind of feed it back to them. Yeah.
Through the person's...
through the other people who actually experience that kind of behavior from him. Like in a meeting, right? In a
Right.
team meeting, other team members actually can also learn to hold him accountable or even tell the person off. Yeah, to say that, hey, when you do that, I feel it's very condescending, you know. Yeah. So I think use the power of systems. I think that would be good, and not take everything upon yourself.
Oh wow, okay, that's new to me. Never thought of it from that point of view. Okay, got it. So let's quickly recap and what are some of the key actions that the letter writer can work on. We talk about we started off by saying that in order for the feedback to be given constructively, it needs to be able to equate to or have tangible changes in this case. So it needs to always tie back to that, right? And if the easy part, if the feedback is given and if it's a blind spot, then it's easy because it's an awareness issue. But in this case, for the letter writer, it is not a blind spot, it keeps reoccurring. Then coaching needs to be used as a skill to understand where this person is coming from. And we also talk about it to ensure that it is just not me and you in this case, is to also learn how to leverage on the systems of the organization, right? In this case, to leverage on the others in the team to be able to help provide such feedback as well in this case, so that the letter writer, or in this case the line manager, do not feel that they are doing this all alone, but as a group or as a team. And it's always in the how when we give feedback, right? So it's not in the what, but it's the how we give the feedback. So it's very important to emphasize about the impact of it, but be very careful about not sounding like a threat in terms of the impact, right? So it needs to use universal laws, kind of like almost like universal language in this case, and it's not like, if you do this, this will happen. I will take away this privilege or whatever that you're gunning for. So I think it's very important not to sound like that when you're highlighting the impact of the behavior, and also it's important. What these letter writers should also seek out or consider as well is to maybe find out from the organization itself, whether through HR or through the business manager, in terms of what kind of values that the whole organization actually they should have in this case, right? And it's again about organization systems, values to uphold, and then also to be able to have to understand from a team level, what's the rules of engagement as well. I think in this case, most of the time, not every company which I know actually have some kind of documented rules or engagement. So a lot of times it's monkey see, monkey do. I see the rest of the HODs, what they're doing, I also will follow in this case, right? So I think once this line manager or this, I'm not too sure what position, could be HOD, start to see that such feedback is helpful, is helping him, or in this case, I think this person should also band together with the rest of the HODs to say, hey, let's have a more standardized version of how do we engage with our people so that it becomes much more empowering in this case.